Welcome to Fatherhood, where we aim to uplift voices and redefine legacy by having real conversations about what it means to be a father in today's climate. The path to fatherhood is deeply personal, but for LGBTQ+ fathers, that path is often shaped by moments of self-discovery, difficult conversations, and powerful breakthroughs. Here to help me break down this compelling topic is actor Trey Oliver, the president and CEO of Latino Memphis, Mauricio Calvo, and educator and barber stylist, Robert Williams. I want to get into this conversation. This is an impactful conversation. I'm so glad for y'all to be here. So the first thing I want to ask Mauricio is, how did you embrace your identity, and what did that look like into your journey into fatherhood?
Well, thanks for having me. As you said, it's a journey, right?
Yes, sir.
I grew up in Mexico City in the 80s. This was very much a taboo. As a friend of mine says, I had to convince everybody, including myself, that I was not part of this community. But I always wanted to be a dad. And I fell in love with my wife at the time, and we had 3 kids, and we were together for 20 years. Actually, and we continue. So we're not together as a couple, but we're co-parenting and very committed to these 3 kids.
Yeah, the biggest thing I heard you say is you had to not convince everybody in the community, but convince yourself.
Absolutely.
So that is the biggest thing and the most important thing. But even Trey, tell me about how did you embrace your journey and to your true identity of fatherhood?
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you for having me. It's very similar to Mauricio. Same, growing up in the South, I kind of questioned my sexuality when I was young, but I was, committed to living what I thought was a quote unquote normal lifestyle. I fell in love with the mother of my child, and we were together for 7, almost 8 years. Had my daughter, and we were in love. We were a family, and things didn't work out, but we got the best blessing we could, which was my daughter. Yeah. And I couldn't have wrote it any better if I tried to. Yeah. And like you said, the best blessing that came out of it was your daughter. Absolutely.
And you were together with your, I think, girlfriend for 7, 8 years.
7, 8 years.
7, 8 years.
And we're still strong co-parents today.
Yes, sir.
Both, like Mauricio said, both very committed to being parents and just being there for our daughter. We're both very supportive of each other, and yeah.
Okay, good deal. And Robert, tell us about your journey.
Well, thank you for having me as well. Mine was a little different, actually. Okay. I don't think I've ever said this out loud or publicly, but my journey started with me being molested, and it was a thing where I was hiding it, or then grew curious, but I always knew what either my family told me or what was expected. Growing up in the church, so you hear, you're not supposed to do this, or you're not supposed to do this, or you're sinning if you did this. So with that being not necessarily in the back of my mind, I always knew that I wanted to be with a woman. I wanted to be married. I wanted to have kids. So kind of like pushed that curiosity to the side, until later it just kept building, and tried it and left it alone. Tried it again, left it alone. Me and my son's mother married out of college. We met in college and got married in 2011. Okay. And had my son in 2013. We did part ways, and I kind of fell back into, this lifestyle. But it became more, I would say, comfortable, for lack of better words, recently, actually, like the last couple of years. But unlike most fathers, it kind of put a block when it came to my son. So kind of those things where, I wasn't able to see him or not able to see him, or where certain people, or not to call names, but certain people would stigmatize you for living your lifestyle at, your truth, or what you feel is your truth in that moment.
And I do appreciate you for sharing that. Did you say this is the first time sharing this publicly?
Yes.
So I do give you a lot of, I know that was huge. I know it was an impactful moment for you. To that point, what did that even conversation look like for your son of having these conversations about, you know, your sexuality? Where did that conversation go when you told him about?
I actually haven't had that conversation with him yet because of the difficulty that's going on right now. But I do actually want to have that conversation with him to let him know that no matter what lifestyle you may choose, you know, whatever any lifestyle anybody may choose, I mean, you're still to love them. Right. They're still people. They're still human. Right. You can still have the same love that any other child or father or whoever can have. So, yeah, I do want to have the conversation with him one day. He's smart enough to understand now, but because of the situation at hand now, the right time, I'll know it.
And I've heard you use the word situation a couple of times. I don't know if you want to get into what the situation is, or we could come back to it.
We can.
Okay. So Mauricio, tell me about your conversation that you had. You said 3 kids, right?
Right.
If I remember correctly, 2 girls, 1 boy.
That's correct.
Okay, that's my combination. So I remember that pretty well.
Probably the same thing, exactly. Yeah.
So how did that conversation go with you?
Yeah. So I actually, came out to my ex-wife, and I want to say something a little bit of Trey said earlier. I don't think these relationships with our former spouses, partners, whatever, didn't work. I like to say that they work until they don't anymore, right? Because they work for a little time, right? That's where we fell in love, and eventually, we evolved. So the relationship didn't end; it evolved. But to the question about the kids, before I came out publicly, I talked to the 3 of them, and the reason being, and I respect where people decide to come out or not or when. That's a very personal decision, but. To me, it was a moment where we were trying to raise kids that were open-minded, inclusive, accepting, loving, and it just didn't feel for me that I was being real, authentic, and to them, if I was telling them to love everybody, to accept everybody, but I was living in a different world that society had stigmatized or classified as whatever, right? And I was like, no, I mean, like it was not the only reason why I came out, but it was important to come out for them. It was important for me to come out for them as part of their growing. And surprisingly, now looking back, it's not surprising, but at the moment, surprisingly, they took it really well. I mean, I don't know if it's this generation or the way we're raising them or a combination of things, but while there are other people who don't get it, I feel like this generation gets it much better.
Yeah. Were you nervous at all?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. But I did it at the same time, but separate, if that makes sense. Like, I didn't put them in a room, but I had a conversation with 3 of them at the same day or one day apart, and they all took it like really well. I was like really thankful and surprised.
What were their ages when you?
Yeah, so at the time they were 15, 13, and 11.
Okay.
And if I remember correctly, was it Father's Day when
he actually came out on a Father's Day?
It was Father's Day when he came out. Yeah. Did that happen by accident or did you?
No. I wrote a post. And I said, today's Father Day, I am coming out as at the time I identified myself as bi. This is a fluid conversation, right? But it was like, hey, because I'm not ashamed to be who I am. I'm still being the same person and the same loving father. So yeah, came on Father's Day.
Wow. Like I said, I think we talked briefly, but I'm a father of a 2-year-old daughter. And my wife is expecting twins. So I am just learning different things, what I can do. But just to embrace who you are and just to tell your kids of who you are is the most important thing. All right. So Trey, tell me about the biggest challenge that you have being an LGBTQ father.
Yeah, I think just kind of the biggest challenge, I think, for fathers in general, it's there's a certain level of masculinity that is expected, a certain, image of masculinity that is placed on us that especially black men, and then once you add LGBT, or being gay with it, from the outside looking in, a lot of outside voices or people who may try to stigmatize you. Yeah. People try to question your manhood or, or your masculinity or whatever, your ability to be a father. And, I think my biggest challenge is just trying to, fight against that narrative. I don't subscribe to people's ideas of what a perfect father is supposed to look like, of what you know, a perfect situation is supposed to look like. I think a lot of people, I think a lot of damage has been done to a lot of children, especially young gay children growing up trying to find themselves, is because so many people hold close to these ideas of this is what a family is supposed to look like, and this is what this is supposed to look like. And I just don't, I think that everybody is different, every child is different, and if you are in a healthy situation where you could be happy and there's love, that's what matters the most.
I think the biggest thing to even being a father is showing your child love, right? But who you are is who you are. Like, what you like is what you like, right? But the biggest thing for a father is to love your child, and that is the most important thing. Robert, coming back to you, what are some of the challenges that you might face being a part of the LGBTQ community and being a father to your son?
To dive back in.
Like how I switched up.
So to go back to what he said, and it's a word that kind of stuck out to me the most, was he said a lot of damage has been done. I'm a part of an organization where we do cutting out stigma and trying to do it behind the barber chair. And it's gearing towards HIV. So it opened my eyes up to when I was asked to be here about fatherhood. So a lot of people stigmatize people with HIV, and they'll tell them, oh, you're this, or you can't do this, or I can't shake your hand, can't do this. So it's almost the same thing about being gay or whatever. And so one of my biggest challenges is, going back to the situation, is that where I want to be in my child's life, it's more of a force, not a choice for me, to where I'm not visible. And to not say too much, but I may call and I get a response. When I'm supposed to see him, I may not see him. Maybe a time he may respond, you know, all right, and it might be a time where I might never get a response. So that's the biggest challenge that I have right now. Not necessarily when it comes to who I am or what I decide to do, because like you, I came out, which was funny, on Christmas, and it was by accident. But that was publicly. But I told my mom, and I was really, really, really nervous. But I actually had a talk with my uncle, who raised me, who did a lot of help in raising me. But I said all that to say, the biggest challenge is being there when I want to be, because I didn't have that with my dad. I had father figures, but it wasn't necessarily my father himself. But in turn, I was there before he passed. So it's like, if I know what I went through as a young child, wanting my dad or wanting to be there, I wouldn't dare put my child through that. And whether I'm this or whether I'm that, I don't ever want to teach my child to stigmatize anybody when it comes to whether they're gay, straight, bi, not necessarily sexual, but if they want to be a stripper, I mean, you can't stigmatize. If you counsel your child from being in somebody's life for being gay, that means you're counseling or teaching them to not love someone who's a stripper, not to love someone who's a drug dealer or this kind of. You're counseling them from loving, and what you're trying to pull them back from. You're actually teaching them not to love a certain person because of what they decide to do. Because I taught you this, you're not doing this. Right. I mean, you know, it's a twofold thing, and I don't think many people actually think about that when they're doing certain things or doing it out of anger or because of what you think. Like the Bible, like they say, ain't no one sin greater than the next. So ain't no one decision greater or less than the next.
You preaching.
So yeah.
You preaching today. It's not even Sunday yet. But no, thank you, Robert, for sharing. That was powerful. I didn't know if you were comfortable enough sharing it. But
I'm fine.
But I think the viewers do need to hear that, and you want to be there, right?
I want to be. And I hear people say, man, come get this child. Come get this. Go ahead. And it's like, why can't I get, but it's a hope and prayer right now. So
If there's something if there was a message or a way that you can get to your son, if there's something that you want to say, what would that be?
I would tell him like I tell him now, I love you. That's just
Wow.
that. And okay, I remember the first day he was born, and there's a picture that I always look at around his birthday where I was holding him, and I said that day that I will always have your back. I have your back now, and I will always have your back,
Wow.
regardless of what you think right now, how you feel, whether you understand or don't understand. I will always have your back, whether it's now, and I'm saying this now, but whether it's now or later, which I would prefer much more sooner than later.
Yeah.
Son, I will always have your back, and I always love you.
Man, that is powerful. Hey, before I start tearing up,
And I'm trying not to. So, yeah.
no, but again, thank you. That
So, yeah.
that as you were saying that again, my wife is expected twins. I'm like, the first words that I want to come out of my mouth to the twins, and even my daughter now, is that I love you and that I will have their back. That is a powerful
And I
thing.
guess it's, to me, I didn't get the opportunity because he was a C-section to cut the cord.
Same.
So, yeah, to hold him the first for that time, and to actually be with him a week alone. I had my son the first week he was born by myself.
Wow.
Because she had to go back to the hospital.
Wow.
So, yeah, I did a lot of, being there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So Mauricio, tell me about how the LGBT community has even shaped the positive experiences of who you are and being a father. Because we heard different things. We've heard the powerful message. Let's bring it back to light where the positivity of the community has shaped you as to be a healthy and successful father.
I mean, it's moments like this, right? So thanks for sharing that. I mean, I think we can see the connection that there's nothing that prevents any one of us,
Yeah.
the four of us here, or anybody watching, from having our kids back. And honestly, that's what our kids want to hear. Honestly, that's all they care. Like who we love, who we date, who we like. It's secondary. It's this conversation is about them. It's knowing that we have their back, and them knowing that we have their back, right? And I think when we show up. You talk about how does being LGBTQ. I mean, honestly, it's just a label.
Yeah.
But it makes us kind of double up, right? I mean, somehow we have to fight against these stigmas and stereotypes. But at the end of the day, like, kids are kids. Like, they just want to know that you're going to be there. There's so many absent fathers, with money, without money, Latino, black, white, all forms and shapes. And we're proving that we're there for them. So I honestly think that being out has made me a better father. I mean, you have to ask them, but I do believe that, and I know because I'm having to work harder, but it's just another proof that the love is unconditional for them, right? So regardless of about my
label,
orientation,
yeah.
like it just to them, my kids still have the same issues at school and growing up and going to college and all these things, regardless of who I like. Right? It's about them, not about me. So I have found, again, a lot of authenticity, a lot of pride on being Latino, on being queer, on just being me, right? And these intersections, you talk about, can you be a father and being gay? Like, two things can be true.
Yeah, exactly.
And we have these intersections that actually they add to who we are and to the people around us. They don't subtract, in my opinion.
No.
So we have to continue to push against these narratives that they try to take things away, because there's no scientific or empirical proof that this makes you a weaker parent. If nothing else, like, we're showing up for our kids.
Wow, that is amazing. And the biggest thing, one of the things that you said is, it's just a label, right? It doesn't define you as a father.
Right.
And even I want to tie all this around and ask you, Trey, about what can we do, or what could anybody do to help with shaping the views of the next generation with LGBTQ and fatherhood? What could we do, or what can other people do to shape that narrative?
I think that what other people, and that's such a good question, especially with just what's going on politically right now in the country. There's this idea, I think, that we need to protect children from certain ideas or certain thoughts, or you know what I mean, especially when it comes to sexuality, and no matter what that looks like. And I'm just of the belief that it is not our job as parents to block the world from our children, to stop our children from experiencing the world. If a child is old enough to ask a question, then they're old enough to get an honest answer about it. It's our job to.
Hey, can you say that again? No, for real.
Yeah, no, literally, it is. What did I just say?
If a child is old enough to ask,
If a child is old enough to ask a question, they're old enough to get an honest answer about
I
it.
agree.
Because if they don't get it from you, they're gonna get it from
Exactly,
somebody else.
because they're going to get it from somewhere.
Right.
They're going to get it from TikTok. They're going to get it
Sure.
at school.
Right.
And I just think it's our job. So many people are of the idea that we have to, as parents, again, that's just, it props up the stigma and the stereotypes when you say, oh, well, I don't want my children to know about that. I don't they're too young to know about that. It is our job as parents to help our children navigate this river of life, right? They can't do that if we shield them from the realities of the world.
Right.
So
because the river of life is still there.
It's still there.
So if you're not the one that's going to do it, somebody's going to do it.
they're going to learn. And I mean, I think we all, just in our personal lives, we probably all know people. I know when I went to college, it almost turned into like a joke, like a stereotype in itself of the kids who came to college who never did anything. They grew up in super sheltered, and they freshman year they were like, no, I can't do that. I can't cuss. By sophomore year, they were the wildest ones we knew because it came to them all at once. They never got the filtered version of real life things from their parents, from the people that love them. So I think that the best thing we could do is to have these conversations with our children. I'm not saying sit them down for anything that's inappropriate, beyond their age, but have these conversations so they know how to handle these things and navigate the world so that they don't go out into the world and further, these harmful ideas.
Because if we're not the ones teaching them, the world is going to teach them.
Exactly.
So that is very important. Man, I even forgot. I thought we were in my living room having this conversation. this type of energy that I'm having, I love it.
Well, and people need to have more of these conversations in the living room because the reality is that I know this is an episode of like, oh, you found 3. There are a lot of people out there, out and not out, that have similar lives to ours, and it's normal. And I think you were asking, what can we do? I think we need to continue to normalize it because this has always existed. It's not like there's nothing wrong with us.
Right.
Absolutely, there's something wrong with society.
Exactly.
But it's normal.
And to that point about it, there are so many other people. I think another idea that a lot of people, I wish that a lot of people would know is that sexuality exists on the spectrum. I think so many people, like you said, they're probably watching this, there are probably going to be a ton of fathers, a ton of parents who will watch this and say, man, I wish that I was brave enough to have this conversation.
Exactly.
Because just because you are in a loving relationship and fall in love with a woman does not mean you're not sexually attracted to men also, and I know for me specifically, when I was in love with the mother of my child, it had nothing to do with, the reason that our relationship ended had nothing to do with the fact that, I am also attracted to men. That had nothing to do with it
the end of your relationship
at all. And, I think this is powerful because a lot of people will see this and see that, being honest, there's a lot of power in that. And, I want people to be able to experience the freedom that comes with being able to be yourself. I think everybody that knows this walks around with that secret of who they really are. You build a mask of who you are. You build an alternate avatar of yourself, right? That you present to the world. And I know for me personally, I got so used to my avatar that once I came out of it and once I was ready to tell the truth about my sexuality, that I was 28 years old and I was like, I don't even know who I am for real.
Right.
There were people in my life that I didn't even know if my relationship with them was based on who I really am or based on this masked fictional character that I built to present to myself to the world.
Who they want you to be.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Who I thought they wanted me to be.
Exactly.
Gentlemen, this is come on, Robert, let's go.
I was going to say, as an educator, I see it. when you don't allow your kids to be around their fathers because of their choice, they may grow up or go to school and start saying, oh, you're gay, you're this and you're that, and now you got a bigger problem because now you got to fight. Now you're doing this and now you're doing that. It causes other issues. So whereas if you are introducing them or if you're teaching them certain ways of life or whatever, here's what I want.
Right.
But here's what you can also, just teach them. I think the biggest word that I had in mind of one thing that we could do is just embrace them, period. I don't see in school systems itself where they have activities, not necessarily activities, but events, activities, conversations, classes, whatever, geared towards kids who are in that community or see themselves in that community or acting on whatever the case is. It's not a subject in the school system itself. So if we as adults can embrace it and have some form of forum for kids who are growing up with it, then it would be a powerful hit.
Gentlemen, this is a conversation that definitely needs to be a part 2. And again, I really do thank y'all for being on this series, on this show, and being open and honest, and for everybody to hear your truth, to hear the things that you're going through and some of the challenges. As we've seen today, visibility matters, and so does being truly seen and heard. These fathers are leading with love, truth, and courage. It's up to all of us to keep listening, amplifying, and standing beside them, because the work doesn't stop here. It starts here. Thanks for joining us.